Hey there everybody, it's markcrilley. I'm back with another how to draw video. Today we're going to be learning how to draw a chibi kiss. Now, I did a chibi kiss video a few years back, but that time it was a kiss on the cheek. This time it's going to be a kiss on the lips. And to make it more interesting, it's going to be a rather dramatic pose in which the boy is lifting the girl up into the air as he kisses her. Now, people like to know the size that I'm working at, so I'll tell you right now. This square here is 5.5 inches on all sides. That works out to 14 centimeters, and then these intersecting lines here just divided into 4 smaller squares. Well, let's not waste any more time. Let's go ahead and get into some initial guidelines. So this is the female character's face in profile, basically a circle over here until it comes to this contour, this being the point of the nose and this the chin, a straight line for now, which is going to be refined later on as we get into drawing the kiss itself. Let's go ahead now and draw the boy's head. So the boy's head, very much the same, just flipped around in the opposite direction. Notice that the chins line up with each other. And later on, like I said, we're going to be refining this so that his lower lip becomes visible and her upper lip becomes visible. But I think it's time now to get on to drawing her upper body. So this is her shoulder, sort of intersecting, coming up across her head. In fact, I'll go ahead and erase right there, and bent at the elbow. You can't really see her elbow in this drawing because his arm will be crossing in front of it, but over here the hand, keeping it very simple. And again, I'll go ahead and erase that line. And so yeah, the nice thing about chibi drawings is they are simple, and even in the finished drawing you'll find that we're not doing many more details beyond these basic guidelines. Well, let's go ahead now and draw his arm and perhaps the lower part of his jacket. So you can see he's leaning quite a ways back here. This helps to convey, his way of maintaining balance as he picks up the added weight of her body. Just a very slight bend to the tip of the elbow, and I think what we really need to do now is to draw his other arm coming around her waist, and I suppose we can go straight from that into drawing one of her legs. So here you see the shape of his other arm coming around to sort of grip her body at the waist. And then a rather complicated shape here coming down her thigh to the knee. Notice this shape to the foot, which I call a sort of a ballerina foot. It's, pointing at a very extreme angle to the toe. A very useful technique, actually, for drawing certain poses. Feet are notoriously difficult to draw, but that shape, once you get it down, can help you. At least for drawing certain poses. I'm going to draw her other foot over here, as well as both of his legs, and then we'll be done, I think, with, well, actually, we still have the facial details to do, but we're getting closer, folks. So indeed, I decided to make the other foot also in this sort of ballerina toe pose. If any of you are ballerinas, let me know if that's accurate or if I'm a complete lunatic. And then here you see the forward lean of his thighs. Again, he's sort of maintaining balance, and he's going to be knee-deep in some snow here. I guess I'll go ahead and make indication of snow. This is actually part 2 in this ongoing series that I'm doing, showing a chibi couple in the various seasons. Last time it was autumn. This time it's winter. And not coincidentally, coming up on Valentine's Day. So we're kind of covering a lot of different things in this one video. Well, let's go ahead and do the eyes and the ears, and then we'll be done with this time-lapse. We can knock it off with the time-lapse and get on to the real-time drawing part of the video. So here you see the classic happy-looking chibi eyes. Some people like to make these really curved. I'm more of a fan of the gently curved variety. Got the ears in place, both of them sort of above the shoulders. And now it's time to start getting into the real-time part of the video. I'm going to refocus the camera, also going to take that moment to erase these initial guidelines. All right, so let's begin with what is probably the most difficult part of drawing a kiss, and that's getting these lips to sort of intersect in the right way. So I'm starting at the tip of her nose, I'm coming down here, and especially with chibi faces, you're not getting too much into the details of the anatomy, but I am going to curve forward just a bit and then curve back to create an indication of her upper lip. And I'm as zoomed in as I can be, actually, at this stage, so I hope this is going to work. But I'm going to leave just a little gap. I'm erasing away here, so that basically I'm drawing her upper lip, And then I'm going to draw his lower lip curving up, but not quite touching that line, and just sort of letting the paper show through. And hopefully that is all we really need to sort of suggest the idea of them locking lips in ecstatic embrace in the middle of this snowy field somewhere. And you can see me sort of trying to refine. I feel like his chin is starting to look a little too long now, so I'm going to maybe shorten that up a little bit. So there you go. Now it's time to, well, let's get the, I'm going to refine the eyelashes of the female character a little more, making her a little more lashy, if that's a word. I'm going to put an indication of her eyebrows, and by raising the eyebrows up on the face, I think it just gives a feeling of elation. And we'll do the same for him over here. Maybe not draw his eyelashes quite so thick, but I think they do need to be thickened up a little from what I had there to begin with. And I'm going to do some lines for her hair. Of course, I'm always encouraging people, feel free to turn these into your own characters. Maybe you want to draw yourself with your significant other. I say go for it, change it around. I'm just doing, well, as I said, I'm continuing the two characters, the couple that I had drawn in this earlier video, and I will link to that in the info box below. So coming around here, I'm drawing some hair coming down across her cheek. And for the ear, I'm not going to get into the details of it too much. Maybe just put a couple of lines in like so. She did, well, I'm going to have her wearing a snow cap. So I'm drawing a line that comes across here. And maybe just make her cap slightly larger than where her scalp would be. This is all very cartoony, so I don't concern myself too much with the logistics of cloth and so forth. But I am going to have one of those poofy balls. Is that what they're called in the business? Poofy balls. Would you like your snow cap with or without a poofy ball? And so yeah, I'm going to come over here and draw that, and I'll just go ahead and make it poofy. But I always like to have at least one little line coming across here and then a series of more vertical lines. To me, that conveys a knitted cap, and you'll see me do this for sweaters and so forth. And she did indeed, in the earlier video, have her hair in a braid, so I'm going to keep with that so that these are recognizably the same character. My technique for drawing a braid is to do a sort of a check mark. Think of this as a check mark where the line comes across down, so that I keep drawing that same shape. It's a little bit like a check mark. And then I just keep connecting that extra line. And I think what I'll do for her is to have this braid extend by 3 of these little subsections, subdivisions, so as to convey the idea of braided hair. And she did have a little bow at the end last time. I'm going to keep all of this to make it consistent with the earlier video, just to make it easy to recognize them as being the same characters. And I think what I'll do here actually is have this line flow in a little more to her hair, like it's coming off of her head. She did have a scarf in the earlier video, so let's keep with that. Can't really see it. Her shoulder is sort of coming up over and obscuring that, but I'm going to have her scarf come back like so. Get some tassels at the end. And probably later on there'll be like a check pattern, which certainly that's what I did on the earlier video. Now this all looks like her upper arm, but I think of this as her back, and then I'm going to get a second line in here that really defines this as her actual arm. And then over here we can move on to, I'm going to have him not wearing a cap. That reckless young man leaving the house without his snow cap on. I don't know why, I just thought, again, with the interest of having him recognizable as the same character. He did have this thing with a little spike of hair popping off the back of his head, so maybe that's why I've decided not to have the snow cap. But he had a bunch of, in this earlier videos, had a bunch of little strands that curved down here, back behind his ear. Speaking of which, I'm going to erase away that initial guideline and get in, as I did for her, just a couple of lines here. I almost never see chibi drawings in which the anatomy of the ear is defined very much. But I'm going to continue with these sort of V shapes for his hairstyle, or I guess it's a W shape. That's not a V. Don't you know the difference between a V and a W, Crilly? And I'm going to erase away the initial guideline of his scalp. Be gone, scalp. And, I guess we got to draw her hand now. I'm going to do, like I said here, I'm going to do the same pattern for the edge of or the cuff of her jacket, I guess it is this time, instead of a sweater. But, chibis are great for people who hate drawing hands because you are always greatly simplifying. So this is her thumb, believe it or not. And then over here, it's almost looking like a kind of a bear claw or something, just maybe one or two, maybe three little indications of fingers. And that's her, sort of putting her hand up across his cheek. As for his jacket, I think we can get a couple of wrinkles in here, maybe just at the elbow to sort of convey that. Maybe a seam, a visible seam where the shoulder joins the rest of the jacket. Usually get some folds here. So apologies, folks. Periodically I make this mistake of continuing to draw out of the frame. I forget that the camera has been zoomed in, and so sadly I'm having to redo this. I had to erase and get it back to where it was before. This time with the camera in the proper position so that you can see what I'm doing. Let's go ahead and pick up where I left off then and add in these wrinkles at the back, of the jacket where he's leaning backwards. That's where wrinkles are going to tend to form. And I'm going to add a pocket here to make the sort of sell the idea that this is a jacket. The jacketness, the jacketosity. And let's go ahead and give her a jacket as well. It is winter time, so I'm going to have it come down lower. And let's break up the contour here, actually. This will be the jacket contour, and then down here is the line of her thigh. But her jacket has these sort of sweater-like cuffs, and so I'm going to continue that over here. Maybe she gets to have a pocket as well. I'll give her one of the more diagonal style. And we better go ahead and get his hand drawn. As I said before, happily, you don't have to worry too much about the details of anatomy here. I rarely ever see chibi characters with long, anatomically accurate fingers, but maybe he can have just a little bit of a cuff there. And coming down here, I thought, well, in the last one, and a few moments ago, I actually drew this before, but nobody could see it. In the previous video, she was wearing boots, and so I thought I would continue with that. And so I draw an extra line here to convey the sole of the shoe. Maybe a line or two here to the wrinkling of the leather. And down here, with her knee bent so much, there definitely would be wrinkles forming here. When I draw blue jeans or almost any pants, I always like to get a seam in there on the side. Sort of helps convey the jean-ness, the jeanosity. Everything gets an osity in this video. And I thought he could be wearing boots as well. Let's move back a little so that we see both legs, just a little bit. And I'll do the same thing, get some wrinkles down here near the boot, as well as a seam here along the edge, and maybe that gets us to the end of this. Oh, right, he is knee-deep in the snow, so I thought we had to get some indications of footsteps in the snow. As they were taking a walk in the snow, and suddenly she was overcome with the desire to leap into his arms and kiss him, full on the mouth. And so that gives us basically what we need here, I think, for the line work. And it's time to add color. Now, I wish that I could spend a lot of time talking about watercolors, which is what I'm going to be using. But unfortunately, I really can't have the video get that long. So what I'm going to do is refocus the camera so we can see the entire picture. And I'm going to add in time-lapse pretty much all the watercolor work that I need. But I'll come back and maybe give you some tips about, what a few tips I can give in the time allowed about the watercolor work. And then we'll be back with my beloved white gouache. But for now, let's go ahead and do the watercolor work all in time-lapse. Alright, so I got all the watercolors done, and I'm going to come in here and do just a little bit of line work real time, and as I do it, maybe talk a bit about the watercolor part of it. Note that this is a blue colored pencil. Last time it was autumn, I used a brown colored pencil. I thought, in keeping with the changing seasons, use a nice cold blue as I outline things. And I would just point out that you don't necessarily have to use watercolors if you're not comfortable with them. You could do all of this coloring with colored pencils or markers, indeed any type of, or you could leave it black and white. You can use any method you like when it comes to following along with one of these videos. The trickiest thing for me in watercolor is covering a large area like this blue, and you can see me, I gave myself little rest spots where the color stops, periodically. I'm sure there are other people who are better at it than I am, but I find it hard to, in one go, cover an entire area in watercolor. So I will sometimes sort of cheat a little with those little break points. And otherwise, like I said, I'm not going to make this too much about coloring, or indeed later on when I add the white gouache. Most of this latter part of the video will have to be time-lapsed, but I wanted to at least give people a sense of the speed at which I would go in and do the line work like this. Doesn't have to be with a colored pencil. Again, this could be done with ink. People do ask, why do you wait and do the line work after you've done the color? And I have mentioned that. In case you haven't seen one of those videos, I'll just say that I find it useful to get the color down first, and then you can sort of decide at the end what things need lines and what don't. If you wait on the color, if you do the line work first, I think you will be tempted to outline absolutely everything, even things that don't need to be. Anyway, that's my technique. So let's go ahead and I'll finish up all of the line work here in time-lapse, and then I'll come back and do just a little bit of the white gouache stage in real time. Okay, so that takes care of the line work, and now I'm bringing out my beloved white gouache. Yes, it's getting a little old, this tube, but I thought, why not show people that you don't necessarily need to toss out this stuff as soon as it starts looking old on the outside. It's still good paint, and I think I'm going to just, as a matter of principle, continue using this until it really is no longer usable. So you can see, because I used this sort of brownish paper to begin with, adding the white gouache really pops out, and of course, this being a snowy scene, I will have the opportunity later to actually make little snowflakes coming down. But I thought I'd just take a moment to maybe talk a little bit about the line work. This time I actually brought in a second pencil. I was using the two different pencils, one the sort of softer standard kind, and then the harder lead, very thin, just to get some of the detail work in there. So that, I guess that's a little unusual compared to what I usually do. Oh, well, let me use the white gouache for one of the things it does best, and that is a a sort of a highlight going across his hair. Someone was saying, do a video about adding highlights. And I thought that's a good suggestion. I don't think I ever have devoted an entire video just to this topic of adding highlights, and it is a fairly important part of the manga style. Certainly in anime style illustrations, you very often see these little white highlights going across the hair. But as I said, I'm going to try to keep this video a little shorter, so that means time-lapsing through the remainder of this white gouache phase, but I'll definitely be back with a few final words. Alright, well, you can see how the white gouache played a very important role in this one, namely getting all that snow in there. Notice that I sort of conveniently have the snow clear away, a parting of the snow so that we can see their facial features. But you know, this illustration can't be done until I add the blushies. On a chilly February day, they're definitely going to get a little apple-cheeked. For once, there's actually multiple explanations for why I'm adding these blushies. Well, hang on just a second. I'm going to go grab my books so that I can thank anyone who has helped me out by purchasing them. We've got Brody's Ghost and Miki Falls, my graphic novel series. There is The Realism Challenge, my book that teaches you how to make hyper-realistic illustrations, and of course Mastering Manga and Mastering Manga 2. Always super, super appreciative of anyone who helps me out by getting those books. But let's go ahead and lay down this blushy pencil. I want to thank you all for watching this video. I hope you found it helpful, and I'll be back with another one real soon.